Hi and welcome to a weekly outlook. Apologies for being a day late, but there's so much coming out stroke Wednesday, Thursday that it's Monday, Tuesday. I wasn't expecting too much anyway, so we've seen some volatility or some relatively modest volatility, and we've seen some on the pound this morning, which I'll come into in a short while. But for now, it's sort of the markets are sitting there resting. You can see this is a weekly picture of the euro, and you can see how small the current candle is. When we come down to the dailies, you'll see how dithering it is. But for now, it's a big week ahead. Come Wednesday, I mean, for the pound perspective, we've got the employment data coming out first thing. Well, I say first thing, but 9:30. We've got then the US data coming out in the evening at 7 p.m. The economic projections. It is widely expected that the interest rate will be increased by 0.25%. Now, if that doesn't, that could affect all of my technical analysis a long way, because it would be such a sign of weakness. But it is widely expected a 0.25% interest rate increase. Now, with that, some of that will be priced into the markets, of course. But it really depends on the rhetoric that comes with it and the press conference at 7:30. So we'll probably see sort of two sort of steps of action there on Wednesday. Thursday is another busy day. We've got the lighter news out in the morning, the European. We've got the flash manufacturing services figures out from France and Germany, and then the final figure at 9 o'clock, which creates a bit of volatility, but not major. But then again, UK 9:30 retail sales. Then at 12 o'clock, the second of the monetary policy announcements. So this is the second interest rate decision, bank rate expected to be left at 0.5. So plenty coming up there, and it doesn't stop, because at 12:45 we get the European bid rate, and then the ECB press conference at 1:30. But it doesn't come on its own either, because at 1:30 we also get the US retail sales and core retail sales. So we could be seeing quite some volatility kicking around those numbers and around those periods. So it's 12:45. I don't expect too much information coming through from that, but certainly at 1:30 immediately I think we'll see some action to the core retail sales from the US, and then of course the ECB press conference itself, which tends to go on, and Dr. Doom will do something there, I'm sure. And that's pretty much it for the week. So after a sort of a quietish Monday, Tuesday, we've got a fun-packed Wednesday, Thursday, and then we can all have a Poets' Day on Friday. Right, so that's it. What we're looking at technically at the moment, I've got this pivot swing kicking in at the moment. Technically, that's a bearish signal on the weeklies there. It has got some potential support underneath, which may be sufficient until we see what comes of these different central bank decisions and subsequent meetings and conversations. Now, there isn't one on the UK, but there is certainly one on the US and Europe. So the euro, I expect to get moved around a little bit, to say the least. Now, as I say, it technically is bearish at the moment for me. It's got the potential to roll over further. Interesting, retail traders have got no idea where it's going. It's a 50-50 with them, so it's and that pretty much is reflecting these days when you're not going to see too many institutional traders doing too much, and they're just probably in their positions or out of their positions and waiting. So there we are. Small movements. As I said, I still think we've got the potential of pushing down. If we break Friday's lows, well, then where next week the monthly S1s, maybe even a push over Wednesday, Thursday down, potentially down towards the daily 200. It's a big move, but could happen. But certainly on the downside, I'm looking initially towards that S1 if we start seeing a breakdown. Okay, that's the euro. The pound. The pound's held up pretty well on a weekly perspective overall. Last week it just sort of sat there and put in a bit of a spinning top, which may be a signal that it's got a bit exhausted on the previous 4 weeks moving up. It's pulled back a little bit this week at the moment. It's sitting, well, today at the moment is having a bit of a recovery, but again it put a pivot swing in on the dailies there. It's broken out, it's triggered the weakness, and it would to me suggest there's still potential weakness in this move. So we could see, weakness in the move, weakness in the market. So we could see further downside there. Inflation came out this morning. It gave it a plop, and then the price dropped, and it dropped quite quickly. About 40 pips overall. So it's since recovered a little bit, but there we are. That's in there. Brexit negotiations, I think, they start more in earnest. I think is it next week we start running into, or late this week actually, probably Thursday. So so we will see some volatility coming, no doubt, for the pound around those conversations, and I'm sure everyone's going to get tough again just before Christmas. Okay. Then dollar yen. Dollar yen, as I've been saying for ages, weekly wise, it's in a pretty tight range. You can see it between just over 114 down to 108, so it's a 600 pip range. It's not to be sniffed at if we could play any of that range. Still got an air of bearishness to me. I was trying to trade this yesterday, but it popped up and just pushed out the highs there and continued up. It may still come down towards that weekly pivot. It's really more based on the US news than anything else. There was I just brought down the 4-hourly here just on this occasion, but there was divergence at the top there, and it made me look and think, well, that weekly pivot still could be on, but for now it ain't doing too much. In fact, it might even give us a bit of a hidden divergence at some point. So still like the potential for that, but I think that might just be going sideways until we run into all of the news coming out. Aussie dollar, now this has seen a bit of a recovery, a bit of a bounce. There's a lot of bullishness going on this, and it doesn't tell you it's about time to sell it at some point, but not yet. It is seeing a bit of a recovery from a weekly perspective. This week it's pulled back. It sold off its weekly 8 last week on pushing through to there into the daily 34 look. Now it's already through its pivot. It's looking, as I said, the last couple of days it didn't put a pivot swing in here, but it got close to doing so. But is a sort of little bullish move there. It's got some potential, but that could all be flushed out fairly soon. Now there are a lot of retail traders that are bullish on this. The COT analysis is also showing a relative bullish theme. There were some divergences, etc. It may still have some more legs in it. I mean, it's still, it's hit the 34. It may push up and recover back towards the 50 there. At the daily 50, so there are some legs in it. There's a will for it to move up, but it hasn't even hit the 50 on this move down yet. So if it does, well, we may get a decent reaction to that point, and it may offer some opportunities in the meantime. But little other news. Hang on a minute. On Thursday we've got some employment data coming out, which could just spoil it a little bit. So I've been all about Europe and the US, and I've forgotten the Aussies. Sorry, guys. Maybe because you're thrashing us at the ashes at the moment and we're not talking to you. Right, more seriously though, coming into the Canadian dollar then. Last week, bullish sort of move, came off the lower bands there, pushed right away up to the upper bands, but it was a choppy old week. It makes it look a little bit better than it really was in reality. And when you start bringing it down to dailies, well, it did actually push up, I guess, quite well, but sold off then strongly on the Friday. And since then, well, it's the week before, big pun, last week it's not done so badly, but either way rather, we're sitting there now. Is this going to roll? Is it going to continue pushing up? I think that daily 200 looks promising. The price of oil, though, has helped things for it at the moment, and we may see it roll a little bit. The price of oil pushing back up towards that sort of $60 zone. There was resistance previously. We saw quite a big sell-off as it got back up to just trying to get into those previous highs there. Now it fell slightly short. Now push up here may give us not quite a butterfly pattern, but not too far off the same reaction. So looking at 59.65 to see if it gets sellers coming back into it at that point. So if that does, well, that gives more. If it rolls over, it'll possibly push the Canadian dollar up. At the moment, though, it has got a weekly pivot untouched. Sorry, I'm just going to run down just to check on that. Yep, weekly pivot still untouched there below which may be a bit of a draw to the downside still. And of course we've got the US data coming out, so FMC reports, so there's plenty to create some volatility and push it either way. So that's pretty much it really. So big days, Wednesday and Thursday. We can have a rest on Friday after we've made all the cash. Have a great one. Bye for now.